These my dollars make it hurt.
Welcome back to a Week 12 lineup edition of the Deep Cover Podcast. I'm your host, Kerry Stevenson. As I always do, shout out to my brothers, my co-hosts, Mike Crawford, Chris Aguilera. If you guys are new to the channel, do us a huge favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Bringing a lot of content, some stuff coming up that we're really excited about. So, give us that like, give us that subscribe so you can, stay abreast of what we're doing. So this is a lineup edition if you're new. We're going to kind of briefly look at last week. I jumped out there with the Joe Flacco play, and that ended up going fine. Price considering it was okay. If I had gotten the two receivers right, we would have been in a lot better position. I just went with the guys that were getting the most playing time with Corey Davis and Jamison Crowder. But the Rook, Elijah Moore, he decided he was tired of sitting at the kids table at Thanksgiving. So he jumped out there. That snap share, creeped up to rival those guys, and he balled out, man. 28 DK points. I think it was like 8 catches, 140 yards of the touchdown. So definitely a guy that we need to be keeping in our player pools going forward. We kind of missed out there. Crowder gave us, I think, it was 16, something like that. I think he ended up scoring. But yeah, if swap out Corey Davis for Elijah Moore, and that goes a little differently. Rest of the lineup was fine, man. Gaskin was fine. Gesicki was fine as that game stack. They combined for 28. Dylan was okay. Got close to 100 yards, 6 receptions was nice. But not getting a TD hurt us. Chase had a really quiet day, kind of salvaged things with a touchdown. But he was pretty quiet. I think like 3 catches in the game. They tried to link up with them down the field a couple times, didn't go their way. CMC put up another 24-point game. Had the nice down the seam touchdown catch from Cam. That was a pretty looking play. All in all, man, 133 points. I think I min cashed in a couple kind of lower stakes things. But it's not getting us where we want to go. We're trying to get up to the top, get to that millie. So let's get back at it, man. Week 12. So you know how I like to do right off the top, identify that primary stack. Going to Cincinnati this week. Joe Burrows facing off against the 26th ranked DVOA pass defense with the Steelers. As a whole, the Steelers defense is giving up the 7th most yards per play in the NFL. Unlike them, but they're looking kind of vulnerable in spots this year. Like Burrow, he's coming off a 148-yard game and a TD. Mixon kind of took over that game. That's kind of keeping Burrow, I think, under the radar, which works in our favor because he's a guy that has that upside, and if we can get him at lower exposure, that's great for us. So plugging in Burrow here to start this off, and of course I got to stack them, and looking at the options here, there's a one very obvious option, and he just came off the quiet game. We played him last week. That's Jamar Chase. I watched a lot of the Bengals games last week. That 4 o'clock game, and watching it, man, just made me come away with wanting to plug Jamar Chase in every week into this lineup. I mean, the guy gets used at all levels, and when you combine that with his talent, it just creates so many different positive range of outcomes for how he can get there as a fantasy asset. So really like him this week. Love his upside. Steelers just ruled out their top corner in Joe Hayden. So that's making this already shaky pass defense even shakier. So love Chase this week. For the same reasoning, I'm gonna go ahead and plug T. Higgins in here. Want to double stack with Burrow. He's not a guy that's gonna do a lot of running. Want to kind of double stack him. And I love Chase. The rest of it, I could see Burrow kind of spreading this thing out. Um, but Higgins at his price, it's worth it to go ahead and take that chance there. Some other guys in that range I kind of like more or close to that range, but um, considering his price point and the upside that we want to see, and made a lot of sense to go that route. So plugging in Chase and Higgins here, staying in this game for my tight end play, and it's going to be Pat Fryermuth. Um, and this is pretty easy, man. 16 targets in the last 2 weeks. No Eric Ebron in this game. If that Burrow stat does what we needed to do, then Fryermuth could easily flirt with double-digit targets this week. So at 4,300, he's going to be a popular play this week, and happy to have him as part of this game stack. So um, plug in Fryermuth. That's it for this game. So we're gonna keep it moving. Um, Go ahead and start trying to get these running backs plugged in. First one I'm going to plug in is, to me, one of the strongest kind of touch base value plays on the slate, and that's James Robinson. He came into last week banged up, still ended up playing, and still got 12 carries and 3 targets. Now he's completely off the injury report, and I'm expecting 15 plus carries and some sneaky target upside in this game. The Jags lost Jamal Agnew. They were playing him in that slot role, kind of scheming up some touches for him. And we can't trust Urban Meyer to do the most advantageous thing for them is to just plug Laviska Shenault in that role. But hey, maybe they don't. They did it last week when Agnew went down some. But maybe they don't do that, to the extent that they should, and maybe that you know creates a couple more targets for James Robinson. So either way, even if it doesn't do that, I expect, like I said, 15 or so uh, carries for him and at least a handful of targets. And at 6,200 with his talent, going up against a Falcons defense that they're in the bottom 10 as far as fantasy points allowed to RB. So like that matchup. He represents solid value at 6,200. For the other running back spot, I'm going to take a little bit of risk here. Uh, but I like the upside at the price. So going Miles Sanders at 5,100. Jordan Howard's going to be out this week. So Miles Sanders should get a large portion of the early down work. I'm sorry. The risk here is kind of twofold. You got Boston Scott, he's going to be involved, and Kenneth Gainwell, who I expect he should be active this week after being inactive last week. So those two guys could kind of severely limit, Miles Sanders' passing game involvement. And what will really hurt us is we've seen in the past Boston Scott get some red zone work. So kind of crossing our fingers, hoping we don't see that. We're hoping at the very least Miles Sanders is that early down guy, and he's getting goal line work, and then sprinkle in a couple targets. I know there's concerns with Jalen Hurts kind of sniping him at the goal line. Jalen Hurts had two short rushing touchdowns last week, but as I explained in previous situations, rushing quarterbacks, that gravity they have in the run game, uh, it helps these running backs a lot, clearing lanes, occupying edge defenders. So as much as it could hurt, it could very much help. And so clearing those running lanes for Sanders going up against this 30th ranked DVOA rushing defense and the Giants, I'm going to take my chances at that price point. All day long. Plugging Miles Sanders here at that other running back spot. So got that taken care of. Other wide receiver spot, I want to fill it out with a guy that I feel very much the same as I do about Jamar Chase as far as the way he's being used. And, that usage and his talent combined is making me want to just autoplay this guy every week in lineups as well. That's Justin Jefferson. This week he kind of has a pseudo tough matchup. 49ers have been the fourth stingiest defense to fantasy defense to wide receivers this week. But I say pseudo because one kind of factor. They're the 22nd ranked DVOA of pass defense. The 49ers are, and honestly, this is more about Jefferson than anything else. He had a stretch where he had 9 targets in 2 games, and the OC came out and said they needed to get him more consistently involved. And after he did that, the last 2 games, 21 targets, 17 catches, 312 yards, and 2 touchdowns, just going crazy. So as long as he's not priced at like 10K, um, he's not a guy that I'm gonna be shying away from. There isn't a defense that's gonna make me shy away from Justin Jefferson with his involvement, with how they're using him at every level, and just his overall ability. Man, it's just a special talent. So I'm gonna lean in on that, especially in a situation where it doesn't seem like he's gonna be overly popular. I guess because of the price, or whatever the case may be, or the price combined with the matchup. So plugging Justin Jefferson in here. Going to the flex. At the flex, I'm gonna kind of go with more of a floor play. But with this guy, due to the matchup, he may have a little bit more upside than what we're used to seeing there. And that's Jacoby Myers. At least 4 catches in all but 1 game this season. He's a guy that's at the front end of what the Pats are doing in the passing game. It's hard to see scenarios where he flat out just bombs, but it's also been kind of hard to see, uh, spots where he reaches his upside. There's been a couple spots that I've played him in that now I've anticipated him being able to do more, and it just hasn't come to fruition. But another opportunity to go back to the well against this Titans defense. They literally give up the most fantasy points to wide receivers in the league. So, this is an easy um, matchup to see if we can get another 4 or 5 catches from him. But maybe one of those he goes for another touchdown, gets back in the box. So, like him at his price. Um, but he gives us a solid floor. He's not going to go out here and completely bomb. Um, like I said, from a um, production standpoint. So like going Jacoby Myers in the flex there. You can play around with that, and maybe try to shoot for some more upside in some spots. But I think that matchup kind of has a little hidden upside there. So like Jacoby Myers. Then we're going to fill this out at defense. Um, and close it out with another, defense running back correlation play with that Jaguars defense, 2,200. Just a couple things at play here. They're cheap at 2,200. They've played better the last few weeks. They have a strong run defense, and this Falcons defense is traveling in, and I'm sorry, this Falcons offense is traveling in, and they've scored 3 more points in the last 2 weeks than you and me and anybody else is watching this video. It's been that bad. So um, that's really it, man. At 2,200, they're going to be popular. And outside of this lineup, I'm probably not going to play them because they're going to be so popular. But we've done a couple of things that kind of get different in this lineup where I can afford to kind of eat it. And even if I didn't, man, it's 2,200. Um, it's pretty easy play, not to overthink it too much. So closing out the lineup with that. Jaguars defense. And that's it, man. That's the lineup. Again, like, subscribe. If we done anything to help you with building lineups in any kind of way, get in the comments and share those things. You don't have to play the same as that lineup if you want to pivot a little bit. Hopefully this is just giving you some kind of blueprint. So that's it, man. Good luck in week 12, and go out there and get you some bread.